The scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show, stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something tidal, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blighted idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Set you free, but I really want to let you be. And a part of me wished I could set myself aside, just let you take the ride, just chalk the rest up to destiny. I could let you believe that the only restraints in life are the size of your dreams. Let you believe each kid grows up with the world at their feet. When I know too well it's open season, I know they're taking stock and raising stocks and raising stock. And I'm simply not here to sit and watch as you learn the lesson all cogs are taught. Keep your head down and keep to task and just keep on blocking the rest of it all out. Just keep on with the rest of the herd of a million adjacent oblivious workers. The forest unseen for the trees, and the trees unseen for the fallout. Now what's more damning, baby, the truth or the ignorance? Fuck it, I honestly wonder if I see the answer so well. Baby, believe me well, I know it's scary, I scare myself. If If I could find a way out of my head, I would run like hell. I would ditch this body politic, minus occupants somewhere far from the dismal abyss. In the tranquil crystalline bliss of the beach, I could rest with the rest of the shells. And if anyone asks, I'm anywhere else. If I'm really needed, just light the candle, then read the book, and then ring the bell. Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul. This world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth and then demand 1,000-fold. It's full of greedy pigs who'll eat you out of house and home. They'll strip your bank account and sweep you somewhere down the road, and then return to eat your tent and shitty bike you rode. Your bottled water, only shoes and coat and broken phone. Then smiling in your face, they'll tell you that the shelter's closed.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out, knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I tried to block the light out, knew you could feel its glow. I've been here holding my hands out, trying to keep you close. Trying to keep you Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul. This world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth, then demand 1,000-fold. I tried to block the light just so I could keep you close. False alarm. I thought that help was here. But it was my own reassurance bouncing round 100,000 times in my own ecosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, consequently you can keep your record clear. And if you mute the speech that shakes your frail beliefs, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steers. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears. Directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers. And then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently had been their peers. Half of whom are glitching with the memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear, but that was back before the basosphere condenser came along, distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong, and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fears by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their years. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little ecosphere, where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles, and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink 'em twice. Welcome to your ecosphere.
Sorry, I'm so gloomy, but the gloom is half the mood. Welcome to the country where they throw out half the food. Like, fuck you if you're hungry, we got better things to do. Got a million more priorities than human rights for you.
Just empty stomachs wandering an empty store, with shelves as empty as our creators left on distant shores. They mark the spot where once a country thrived that even tried to help its poor. Now in its place, a fascist state where rape is just a tool of war. I guess they took a page from out the book we used in '64. Villagers we stacked in graves, caked in fucking Agent Orange. Now cut to yesterday, Afghanistan endures the very storm that swept its way through Vietnam, where even now the blood is warm. And even now Fallujah celebrates to see a baby born who's not deformed, not warped by little presents we left hidden in the dirt, courtesy of all your friends at the World Economic Forum. Courtesy of civilized political decorum. Unity across the aisle, both sides agreeing via war crime quorum. I'd like to say that when they start the midterm texts, I'll be able to ignore them. But I know myself well enough to know I'm gonna draw them all rhetorically, then verbally I'll quarter them. Lyrically I'll carpet bomb and mortar them. Purely via metaphor I'll bury them alive, but upside down, with the utmost blasphemy intended out of spite. Now lyrically I'll lead them by the eyes, cause lyrically I'm still beneath the ice, scratching at the surface for a purpose they deny. And every time they smile and they look me in the eyes, suddenly I'm 6 feet under subprime. 6 feet standing firmly in between you and the sunrise. And now your movement's as restricted as the sunrise. Now it's crippled into parody like Occupy. Young hearts be free, young Turks here to slowly poison hearts and minds. Here to get them speaking press release in record time. Here to get them standing up for AOC and every other Langley plant who sprays a coat of tax the rich across their Semper Fi. Now the skies are nice and clear, the drones are set to fly. They're following the pipeline of how the West was won to how the West declined, to how the West made debt into a genocide, to how the West demolishes a picket line, to how the West contaminates a riverside, to how the West's war crimes are glamorized, to how the West protects the kind of medical neglect that is infanticide at best and is at worst an ethnic cleansing rite. Now it's safe to say it's all fun and games until the feds arrive. Oh shit.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Welcome if you got them. But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. You know, the issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
What's up, everybody? It's another week. It's another episode.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It's Wednesday. Hope everyone's awake. Because me and Collin certainly are not. We're about to take a nap on air. And that is going to be the show today.
It's yeah. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome
Don't
to
trust.
the Reef.
Don't trust.
Welcome to the Reef.
Democratic campaign managers is the news of the week. That's, you know, you have the right to not trust things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm trying to remember what else is important to talk about before we go live with our real stories.
Besides liking, sharing, subscribing, if you would love to give us monies by super chat or Patreon. Do we have that up somewhere? Because
yeah, it's in the if you go to indienews.network, right in the description below, all the ways to donate are in there. You want to scroll through and you might end up on this little list of names going by your screen. So, you know, that's always nice. But anyway, I think that's it. So please subscribe.
So please whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But
anyway.
But yeah, please help us out if you could. We love you, but always know that you're not entitled to give your monies because we know that times are hard. The holidays are coming. They're gonna make you start shopping now. Time for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate.
Get all your Halloween stuff before that, though. You know.
Well, I would argue Halloween is essentially the holiday season.
Yeah, now it's just pre-Christmas. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So, but yeah, everything's there.
Go ahead.
You know.
I'm so tired.
Oh,
Guys,
dude, you've had a long day at school, so.
I had a long day. I had a back to school thing tonight. I just got home like half an hour ago. So I've been at work since 8. And I love you all, but I'm probably gonna be on a struggle bus tonight, and I think I might be getting cold. So at least it's Wednesday, so but yeah, so I may not be as energetic tonight, but I'm sure you'll understand.
So. Well, we'll see how things go. But you know, you might wake up later when you talk about stuff, so but
maybe. Well, I'm not sure considering these stories. I mean, obviously, and just to be very transparent, this week I think as far as prepping stories, for me at least, was a struggle bus. Normally, I would kind of, and just a little BTS, normally when we pick stories, it's usually out of inspiration or, you know, kind of more of a deep dive in stories that we may have covered in the past. And I wasn't feeling it this week, honestly. I think work, you know, obviously for me, just getting back in the swing of things has been kind of taking its toll, but that's kind of normal for this time of year for me. But I think obviously the big stories this week, you know, with Cornel West and Peter Dow and like all that kind of stuff, I think for me kind of took the air out of the sails as far as, just wanting to report and stuff, because I feel like you guys don't. No, that's not true. You guys care, but
yeah,
like the whole West thing. Look, and I said this to Reef. I know he doesn't want to talk about it, but this is all I'm going to say on this because I know some of you asked. Look, do what you got to do. Keep in mind, we're a year out from voting day. So you do not need to throw your support for West right now. I'm not. I'm not entirely sure that I am fully convinced that I will want him to be well, he won't be president. Let's keep that real. He will not be president. But don't feel like healthy skepticism in light of politics is more than okay. So I have the mindset of I'd rather be skeptical and eat crow later than put my hope in a campaign or a politician and be disappointed later. And I think a lot of us have gone through that way too many times. And I understand how people are guarding their hearts right now, especially given what Cornel West's announcement.
If you're looking for hope in a politician, not the place. Saying
right. And so, and I think at least the first story that I'm going to talk about, this again, this is abroad, but I think this is, I think it kind of relates to what we just said in terms of don't put your hope in politicians when we don't have the direct action and the community organizing as a priority. So if you're not doing that stuff, then it doesn't matter who is going to be president. It could be West, it could be Trump, it could be like whoever it is.
Yeah, so, you're not going to be able to get them to do anything you need if you don't have other organization behind you.
So yeah.
Anyway,
that's all we're going to say on that. Again, follow me on Twitter. You probably know where I stand in a lot of this. So we won't mention it here. But that being said, I do think this first story, I kind of wanted to talk about the G20 summit. That's something that no one has talked about. That's a thing that happened over the past week. But I found this interesting story that regarding India, where it was hosted this year. That the government is hiding its poor away to give the appearance of, oh, we're great, our country is great, to these rich sons of bitches who are trying to colonize the global south. So I think it relates to just what we just said. So I think it's just an interesting story that I found that kind of talks about that. And then I want to talk about Medicaid. I feel like a few commentators have reported on this already, but as we know, we're no longer in a pandemic anymore. Biden cut Medicaid. Oh, did I not change that? I put Medicare. It's not Medicare, it's Medicaid. I will change. I think that thumbnails have been changed, not this, so I apologize. But people are losing Medicaid. Thanks, Biden. So that's something Citizens not going to talk about. And other these Democratic shows are going to talk about. But we're going to talk about it. Just to give you more information on that. And what do you got, Reef?
Well, Zelensky threatens Europe now. So you're in that part of the world, pay attention. It's active calls for terrorism there, so we'll get into that. A little bit of stuff from Moon of Alabama, and then we have a article from one of our own here at INN. You might know him as Indie Left or Indie Media Today or just Indie, and he has some issues with what Substack has been doing recently, which you might also not be happy about. So we'll get into that. So,
not to put Indy on blast, but he has a love affair with Substack. So
he does. He does. It's one of the few platforms he puts all of
obviously
his
he's writing this
eggs in. So, you know,
yeah, he's not. We'll get into that, but
he's definitely not happy about it.
Pushes Substack, loves subs. Well, before this, loves Substack. We're trying to get us to use Substack, and we're like, that's too much for us.
Okay.
On top of
sure.
we're doing.
But we'll get into it. It's not necessarily don't throw it out completely and don't go unfollow the Substack people you follow now. But
Reef, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? No? Okay. Hold on. I fix. You can't hear me? What about now?
Reef, I can't hear you.
Okay. Well, let's go here. I fix these.
That. Wait a second. Sorry.
Testing.
There we go.
Okay. We're good. I literally did nothing. I changed nothing.
Okay. I think I'm not sure as the screen froze and there was no sound. So
gotcha.
It'd been a slight glitch.
Might have been internet. But anyway, you want to get to this story?
Sure. So this is not long, but this is an article that I found on Innstick. Again, tired, so forgive me. I might ask you to read this, Reef, honestly. So this is an article written by Zenaira Bakhsh. And I'm going to butcher these names, so I apologize in advance. But this is a story regarding the G20 summit, which happened last week. And basically kind of reminiscent of the Olympics. They clean up shop, but hide the low population to make the appearance to these dignitaries that everything's good and nice and clean and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
So article heading: This is humiliating. India hides its poor for the G20 New Delhi summit. And Zenaira goes on as follows. Can you zoom out, please? Thank you.
I might be able to.
I got it. Every morning for the past several years, 35-year-old Dablu Ram walked about a kilometer to fix shoes in his makeshift roadside shop, an enclosure inside a residential neighborhood in New Delhi of less than 5 square feet, enough for him to sit surrounded by shoelaces hanging from its wooden walls. Then one day in August, his shop was uprooted by authorities. They replaced his place of business with 3 flower pots. In preparation for the G20 summit, the gathering of the Group of 20, an intergovernmental economic forum that took place on September 9th and 10th in India, national authorities, who saw the occasion as an important moment for the country to assert itself on the international stage, launched a massive beautification drive. But the pretty facade came at the expense of the city's poor. The year saw the demolition of homes and shops like Ram's. The government put up several. Can you move over to the right?
Yeah.
Brief.
There's nothing.
There you go. The government put up several foot-high green curtains to hide the poor neighborhoods. During the summit, restrictions on movement left thousands of workers homeless and without income.
Okay.
I've only earned 50 rupees, 60 cents since morning, Ram told Innstick on Friday afternoon as he squatted beside the flower pots with his wares stashed into small boxes, waiting for customers in the Johnny Farm area of Jamima Nagar, a predominantly Muslim locality in New Delhi. During the summit, the Delhi police patrolled the streets to remove any vendors. I used to earn around 300 rupees, $3.60 a day. Today, I don't have enough money to buy food for my family. Ram's shop was about a mile from the main road, and the nearest venue linked to the summit, the posh Sarah Hotel, is another mile away. While hosting the summit was a matter of prestige for New Delhi, it crippled the city's poor, many of whom survive on less than $2 a day. I want my daughter to get educated, Ram said. I could not complete school, but I want my daughter to learn English and be eligible for white-collar jobs. But how would that happen when I can't even afford food? In the past few months, the Indian government has spent 41 billion rupees, just under 500 million, to give the country capital a facelift, installing millions of flowers, murals, lights, plastering the roads with billboards featuring Prime Minister Mahendra Modi, and adding the green curtains.
Yeah, up here. Ooh.
The situation hasn't been good for brick-and-mortar shops either. The owner of a small cafe in Najima Nagar, a haunt for students of the nearby Jamia Millia University, said business suffered after the authorities removed street vendors and forced businesses to shut down by 8 p.m. every day. The police have been especially harsh on street vendors. They have created a sense of fear, she said. We have a large percentage of poor people who depend on daily earnings. There should have been some arrangements for them. If India can host such a huge event, then the government could have also created alternatives for people, she added, questioning the need to remove street vendors from the streets and close down the area early. Delegates are not going to visit this densely populated neighborhood. The whole exercise feels weird and humiliating. The neighboring areas of Jari Farm include Balta House, Shireen Bagh, and the new Friends Colonies Community Center, once filled with street vendors doing brisk business selling food and hosiery items, have been deserted for over a month now. Many slums housing migrant workers from several Indian cities across New Delhi have been bulldozed, and street vendors as well as aid workers were crippled because of the restrictions in place for the summit. Since the beginning of this year, the government carried out encroachment drives across Jamia Nagar, citing a National Green Tribunal order to remove all encroachment in the Yamuna floodplain area. In such one drive, about 250 residents lost their homes. Most recently, in August, the Delhi Development Authority demolished another slum in Delhi's Bagura area, rendering about 150 families homeless.
Pause.
Yes.
It said that, there's these National Green Tribunal order, right? We've seen here in the States, they bulldoze all sorts of tent cities here.
Right.
As well, I think you're seeing a lot of people when you talk about these quote unquote smart cities coming up. Specifically, I've seen Dubai recently do very similar stuff. And they bring leaders of the world all over. It feels very much like they're trying to whitewash these cities for, the moneyed class to not see any of the poors, and they're using green deals essentially to drive a lot of that,
Right.
At least to some degree, right? That we can't have these people work in the places they live in because it somehow makes, we need more plants,
Right.
So,
remember when we talked about last week when we were talking about India vetoing against Algeria application towards BRICS Plus?
Yeah.
And how, as I mentioned, shout out to Nuno, who is a follower of ours, who sent me the story and DM'd me privately in terms of what he spoke about in terms of his friends who live in India told him. Basically, Modi is, I'm going to say in this way, a fuckboy for the West. So,
can be,
so essentially he's, like France, like he has a deal with France where he's buying weapons from them. Yeah. A lot of the money, a lot of the surplus that of this money that he does get overseas, he's giving it away to essentially his donors. And as you heard, just in these stories, like the low income communities in New Delhi, do not benefit, from the surplus that, he kind of touts as, we're looking to bring new jobs to India, which is what France is feeling. because this is essentially cheap labor.
Yeah.
So, so Dr. Nick, shout out to you, says the weapons from France are in a form of assets for the Navy. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you see
but
this when the Olympics come to town too, right? Where
Yeah.
you know, or FIFA, you know, any of these
Yes.
organizations like that, they start corralling the poors and the homeless into not homes, but I guess invisible meat grinders that then gets made into, you know, Soylent Green, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where they go. You know. They send them all to Portland, maybe. You know, who knows?
Right.
So
I think, yeah, but like I said, I wanted to report on this story because, you know, we've seen this same shit in the States, especially in the cities here. And this is just a clear example of the elites, you know, using their power and authority to, you know, shaft the poors for, and in this case, essentially for the white colonists who are only going to were in the city for 2 days, but they spent the last few months trying to clean up the city in areas that they're not going to go into anyway.
Like with any of these environmental / governmental things, how many private jets you think it took? How many gallons of fuel were burned to get all these people in one place to begin with? You know, then they want to tout they're cleaning up for green reasons while making people not be able to, like, they literally push businesses out to put up a couple of plants. Like that's like 3 potted plants versus an entire man's business.
Or better yet, maybe give them homes. Maybe give them, you know, a living wage that they're able to improve upon.
Could those 3 plants and the person running the shop not coexist? Could we not have had both? Like, he would have probably liked some plants to put out as business, you know?
Right.
Like something. But anyway, I'm sure it gets worse as we read this article. So can zoom, yes.
In July, Kashal Kishori, the junior housing minister, reported at least 49 demolitions in New Delhi between April and July, according to Reuters. The government says that the houses are illegal, and officials of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's federal government told Reuters that the evictions are a continuous activity. No house has been demolished to beautify the city for the G20 summit, Kishore said.
But apparently,
nonetheless, the government did take intensive and avowed actions to prepare for the summit. As global leaders like U.S. President Joe Biden, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and others arrived in New Delhi, the Indian government shut down all schools, colleges, and offices in the city from September 8th to 10th. The Delhi police imposed additional restrictions in view of the VIP movement in the national capital. Entry into the capital was also restricted, with several flights and trains canceled or rescheduled. Meanwhile, the cafe owner, like many other business owners in the area, said the government was trying to create an impression of the delegates that doesn't seem normal. Probably even the delegates might wonder why Indians don't go to work or children don't go to schools. If the same summit had happened in any other country, people would have been going on with their lives without these kinds of disruptions, she said.
Right.
About 10 miles away from Jamima Nagar, a prominent roundabout junction close to the airport was covered with tall green curtains through which convoys of VIPs frequently passed. Hidden from the passers-by view, except for a few small openings, was a densely populated slum inside a roundabout island.
Oh my god. They literally curtained off the poors?
Yeah.
They literally,
yes.
Holy shit. Okay. Like, here's where we keep our dirty parts of the city, behind a fucking curtain. Jesus Christ. Okay.
A few yards inside the cloaked neighborhood, darker than the street outside, it was difficult not to feel suffocated. Sitting by the doorless entrance to her single-room home, 30-year-old Aarti said she didn't know why the green curtains were put up or why the VIPs were in New Delhi, and complained that a police officer had asked her to produce written permissions from their employers to leave the neighborhood. Innstick reached out to Suman Malwa, the spokesperson of the Delhi police, Abhijay Shankar Patel, director of public relations of the Delhi Development Authority. However, both said they were unavailable for immediate comment. Innstick has sent questions to Patel, and if he responds, we'll update accordingly.
I'm betting he's not going to.
I clean people's houses. Where will I get these permits from? Aarti said, expressing her feeling of helplessness. The police won't allow us to go out, and our employees tell us that they will fire us if we don't show up.
Right, so you're stuck
A few
there.
feet from the... Yes.
Yeah.
A few feet from the curtains, 56-year-old Carly Karan, who irons clothes for a living, stood idly. His inertia was broken by the commotion caused by incoming VIP convoy. A posse of policemen appeared to prevent those behind the curtains from venturing out or even peeking from the openings in the curtain. As the sirens reverberated for the next few minutes, Charan said his earnings went down from about 500 rupees, $6 a day, to about 200 rupees, $2.50.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah. Charan was aware of the G20 summit and explained the incoming VIP movement of world leaders through the area. The government want to create a good impression, he said. They don't want these countries to know that there are slums in India. The government is ashamed of its poor. They don't want to be humiliated because of us. As the day's temperature soared to more than 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit, Charan complained about the suffocation and increase in the heat in his neighborhood due to the curtains. The police stay here till 11:30 in the night. We go outside only around midnight when the roads are cleared up, he said. Our children keep asking us why we are behind these curtains. We just tell them that we are poor. Jesus Christ. Earlier this year, as G20-related meetings were held in Visakhapatnam in the Andhra Pradesh state, again, apologize for the butchering of these names, beggars were evicted from the city and their slums concealed with telepens. Ahead of the main summit in New Delhi, authorities evicted even animals, rounding up street dogs and placing cutouts and lanyards to scare away monkeys from the summit's zone. The activist group Concerned Citizens compiled testimonies and wrote that the government was brutal in its demolition of houses of the poor ahead of the G20 summit in a report titled Public Hearing on the Forced Evictions Across India and G20 Events, released on July 13th. This, however, is not the first time that the arrival of world leaders has led the Indian government to hide its own people. In 2010, during the Commonwealth Games, according to the Housing and Land Rights Network, forced evictions and demolitions of houses took place in Delhi on a wide scale, leaving thousands of people homeless in order to construct stadiums, parking lots, and city beautification. The people who have been displaced will come back, and their homes will get demolished again, and then they will come back. Harsh Mander.
Oh.
More recently, in 2020, during the visit of former U.S. President Donald Trump, a half-kilometer brick wall was built overnight along the road from the airport.
Stop. Fucking Trump came and they built a wall. Beautiful wall. Like half-kilometer made of brick. The best brick. Indian brick. It's very good. It's fucking stupid, dude. Like, what the fuck? Okay, what was built overnight? This is the people. We're gonna get the Indians to build a wall. It's gonna be great. Not those kind of Indians, the 7-Eleven Indians. They're nice people. Like, fucking, you know, like, it's so stupid. Fuck.
Flip that, please.
Like, fucking believe me, we're gonna build a wall. It's gonna be so good. So good. My friend, Pretty Patel, he's gonna do a great job. Sir, Pretty Patel's British. Look, the best people, they tell me. Anyway, I could do that all day, but dude, they literally built a wall for Trump. That's literally what they did. Hide the pores from Trump behind a wall, please. Fuck me. Okay. Was built overnight along the road from the airport. Residents accused the government of hiding rather than investing in improvements to the slum that was inhabited by more than 2,000 people. In Modi's home state of Gujarat, Bijay Patel, a government official told The Guardian that the wall was built for security reasons and as part of the beautification and cleanliness drive. Collin, I know what you need to beautify your own home. A fucking half-kilometer brick wall. That's what you need. That's real pretty, bro. Real beautifying going on there. You know? Anyway. But denied that the wall's intention was to hide the slum neighborhood. No, it couldn't have been. We built it completely around the slum, but it's not used to hide it at all. That's what the curtains are for. That's what really hides it. Jesus Christ.
The poor live in perpetual precarity, Harshmander, a rights activist, told Innstick. They know that a bulldozer might come anytime because they have no lawful right to any piece of land or house in the city, he said. Of all, India is the world's 5th largest economy with a $3.75 trillion economy. It is also true that among all G20 countries, India has the lowest per capita income and the worst rating in the Global Hunger Index, as it ranks 107th out of the 121 countries, said Mander. Mander, who works with urban homeless people, said the recent demolitions and evictions left people in despair. Generations of poor people have lived on these pieces of land, and there are no options for them. People were taken out, put into buses, and dropped outside the city. How are they going to survive, he asked. Right to adequate housing.
We're going to take the pores and push them somewhere else. That's fucking SpongeBob thinking. That's what that is.
Right to adequate housing and shelter is an extension of right to life in India, and this is also a well-recognized and internationally accepted human right. The most common reason for people being deprived of this right is poverty. Shunbangi Chiava wrote in a report titled Right to Housing and Shelter in India. Lack of housing and shelter is connected to a series of other violations of rights such as the right to life, health, privacy, etc. The future, meanwhile, remains unchanged, Mander said. The people who have been displaced will come back, and their homes will get demolished again, and then it will come back again, he said. When you are powerless, you have to persevere.
Yep. Oh. Well.
Yeah. As our friend DJ Jonai says, Jonai says, internationalize the struggle. I mean, this could read very well what happens here.
Yeah.
Exactly to the T. So, yeah. So, but again, right. So, as I said earlier, and I'm not sure if you guys heard me because I think, at least for me, there was probably a glitch. Like, no politician is going to solve this or situations like this unless there's direct action. And I'm sorry, even Cornel West is not going to be the one to necessarily solve issues like this in this country unless people stand up and actually fight for it. So all of that to say, like, this sucks. And as I said, it's kind of reminiscent of what happened, at the Olympics in Brazil. Exactly the same shit. And the thing is, they only built them for 2 weeks and then they're gone. And then, like, a lot of these buildings are left vacant. So they don't use them for anything. So, and meanwhile, you displace people out of their homes and their livelihoods, and they have nothing else to do. So, yeah. So, it just sucks all around. But again, like, not a good story, but I think, again, it's just a reminder of how much there needs to be more direct action and more community organizing that needs to happen in order for radical changes to come. But
my guess is they're going to make a magic carpet that you can sweep all the pores under. You know, I think that's what's next. They've tried walls and curtains, you know.
Right.
So who knows? But yeah, of course. Anyway. Well,
so
on to our
moving
next
on
one.
from India to Ukraine, I guess.
Not too far away.
Yeah.
But you know, this guy, Koki Smurf here, decided to do an interview with the Economist, right? So here's Moon of Alabama, and I apologize, I looked for who wrote this. I think this is just their kind of like from their Ukraine section.
That's fine.
So I have the link down in the doobly-doo as always, as most of our articles are placed there. And I think the article links to these Economist articles as well. So this is a couple days ago, September 11th, right? So here it is. Donald Trump will never support Putin, says Vladimir Zelensky. But Ukraine's president fears that some of the country's Western backers are losing faith. I wouldn't bet on this either, Mr. Z-Man there. So the Alabama article says it includes his unusual, unrealistic platitudes about not ending the war until Russia has completely pulled back. Speaking with an English-language media, he didn't miss to mention the ever-misunderstood story about Chamberlain's move in Munich. Tapping loudly on the table, Mr. Zelensky rejects outright the idea of compromise with Putin. War will continue for as long as Russia remains on Ukrainian territory, he says. A negotiated deal would not be permanent. Yeah.
War will continue as long as we give them money.
Yes, we're getting to that. A negotiated deal would not be permanent. The Russian president has a habit of creating frozen conflicts on Russia's borders. In Georgia, for example, not as ends in themselves, but because his goal is to restore the Soviet Union. Interesting assumption there, Zelensky. Those who chose to talk to the man in the Kremlin are, quote, tricking themselves. Much like the Western leaders who signed an agreement with Adolf Hitler at Munich in 1938, only to watch him invade Czechoslovakia. The mistake is not diplomacy, but the mistake is diplomacy with Putin. He negotiates only with himself. Interesting projection there from the guy with Nazis in his fucking war bands, but, you know, what do I know? In 1938, Chamberlain had no other choice but to give in on Czechoslovakia. Britain was not ready for war, and the parts Hitler wanted to annex from Czechoslovakia had undeniably a largely German population, right? He contended that Sudeten German grievances were justified and believed that Hitler's intentions were limited. Zelensky goes on to threaten, in rather unthankful fashion, those countries which have delivered aid to Ukraine but may want to cut their losses. What were you saying earlier about the money, Collin? Curtailing aid to Ukraine will only prolong the war. Just says that right out in the open, Mr. Zelensky argues, and it would create risks for the West in its own backyard. There is no way of predicting how the millions of Ukrainian refugees in European countries, remember those? Remember all those white refugees that we accepted? Would react to their country being abandoned. Ukrainians have generally behaved well and are very grateful to those who sheltered them. They will not forget that generosity. It sounds like you want them to. But it would not be a good story for Europe if it were to drive these people into a corner. Back to Moon of Alabama, I have seen such threats from low-ranking individuals of the fascist Bandera fringe. They spoke of terrorism they would unleash in the West should it end its support for Ukraine. That the Ukrainian president now reinforces such threats shows how deeply he immersed himself in that mindset. A previous Economist story shows that Ukraine has already set up the necessary infrastructure to wage a terrorist campaign. Here it is, Collin. Inside Ukraine's assassination program, its agents has become expert in dark revenge, but some worry a clear strategy is absent. In modern Ukraine, assassinations date back to at least 2015, when its Domestic Security Service, the SBU, created a new body after Russia had seized Crimea and the eastern Donbass region. The elite 5th Counterintelligence Directorate started life as a saboteur force in response to the invasion. It later came to focus on what is euphemistically called wet work. What does that sound like, Collin?
Wet work?
Yeah. Yeah. As a
I have no idea.
as a counterintelligence division, what do you think wet work versus dry work is? Wet work involves blood, I would imagine.
Okay.
And CIA for murder is sole construct likes to, yep, wet work. Valentina Nalivayanchenko, who headed the SBU at the time, says the switch came about when Ukraine's then leaders decided that a policy of imprisoning collaborators was not enough. Prisons were overflowing. Sounds familiar. But few were deterred. We reluctantly came to the conclusion that we needed to eliminate terrorists. He says, a former officer of the directorate describes it in similar terms. We needed to bring war to them. In 2015 and 2016, the directorate was linked to the assassinations of key Russian-backed commanders in the Donbass. Mikhail Tolevsky, also a.k.a. Givy, killed in a rocket attack. Arsen Pavlov, a.k.a. Motorola, blown up in a lift. Alexander Sarkenchenko, blown up in a restaurant. We've I think covered that restaurant bombing before, or someone on the network did. Valentino Nailovchenko, who headed the SBU at the time, he read that. Intelligence Insider says the SBU's 5th directorate is playing a central role in counter-Russian operations. So, they've also been peddling in some propaganda of themselves. You see this going around on Twitter today, Collin?
I did, actually. I saw, I haven't watched it, but I've seen it on Twitter today.
Yeah, so we're going to watch it here if I do this and then this and here. So this is this is the truth. I don't know if you've heard of this thing. There's big quotations on that. This is essentially, Ukraine. It's, those things where North Korea puts out their, person to talk about what happened. And okay, it's pretty much what this is, but from this lady.
Russia hates the truth that their obsessive focus on a Ukrainian volunteer is simply allowing the light of the Ukrainian nation's honesty to shine brightly. Next week, the teeth of the Russian devils will gnash ever harder, and their rabid mouths will foam in uncontrollable frenzy as the world will see a favorite Kremlin propagandist pay for their crimes. And this puppet of Putin is only the first. Russia's war criminal propagandists will all be hunted down, and justice will be served as we in Ukraine are led on this mission by faith in God, liberty, and complete liberation.
So
Russia.
There you go, Collin. They're gonna go after propagandists, right?
Right.
And serve justice in countries that they are not the justice servers. I mean, it sounds like that's called terrorism, in my opinion. Aaron Bastani on Twitter agrees. This deranged video sounds like Ukraine may plan to carry out attacks, plausibly extrajudicial killings, against those they view as Russian propagandists. If that happens outside their own borders, it is terrorism. If it happens in the UK or Europe, there should be massive consequences. So there's that. But anyway, back to this article. From there, it's just a step towards total war. This is that Economist article again. Meanwhile, a long war of attrition would mean a fork in the road for Ukraine. The country would lose even more people, both on the front lines and to immigration. It would require a totally militarized economy. The government would have to put that prospects to its citizens. Mr. Zelensky says, without specifying how, a new social contract could not be the decision of one person. Almost 19 months into the war, the president says he is morally ready for the switch. but he will only broach the idea with his people if the weakness in the eyes of his Western backers becomes a trend. Has that moment come? No, not yet, he says. Thank God. So does Zelensky know of any country with a totally militarized economy that survived? I have yet to hear of one. Anyway, to end the war is not in his hands, but can the West end the war? Ive Smith takes a look. She concludes that an end to the war is unlikely until bigger things change. In other words, the way to an end game is regime change, and the weak regimes are all in the West. Right? So,
yep.
Yeah. What says you, Care Bear? Anything?
Well, so essentially, Zelensky is trying to guilt trip us to keep the war going.
Oh, he's straight threatening. He's like, it'd be a shame if something happened to that nice Europe you got, that we sent a ton of refugees to, Like, could you imagine any other country sending their refugees here and then threatening like that? Yeah, that wouldn't go down well,
No, well, try a black
right.
a black
try Iranian refugees or
right. Anyone
like
of color.
Yemeni refugees. So
right.
Yeah, not good.
I don't know. Like anyone who kind of continues to support this war at this point, which I think now like support in this war is decreasing.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, in my opinion, but but the fact that like Zelensky is basically threatening the West to be like, you need to do something or bad things will happen to you all. Like it's already has.
It sounds like Al Qaeda. It sounds like
right.
I mean, are we gonna create another giant religious-based terrorist organization with funding from us and weapons from us, so yeah, I mean, same thing we've done about 1,000 times now. So,
right, but you can argue, and I've seen in the chat that the Biden administration have essentially enabled this. So, so it's like, really at this point, it should be us, and we're not going to anytime soon, like barring something happens to Biden again, like, that prevents that. But, we created the monster, and only we can essentially stop it at this point. Now, I feel like politically that might be, the administration might consider that suicide, considering the Russia gating that has taken place over the last few years, that I don't think people will necessarily support that. But that being said, I think also people are getting to feel it in their pockets in terms of, we're seeing all this money just carte blanche going off overseas, and we're struggling here. And I keep saying this, like this is going to be a hard winter for many people. As I said, the holidays are coming and people may not get gifts this year. Like, as I said, like we're seeing Christmas stuff on sale already, and it's September.
They're already buying Russian oil at exorbitant prices since a certain pipeline was blown up, but just to keep the heat on. So,
and meanwhile, France is basically being bitches in Niger in terms of their resources, and like, so like Europe is desperate, like,
yep,
and going essentially to the global south for help. Well, not help, but like give us your shit. And now Africans are like, no, fuck yourselves. So it's just a whole mess all around. And honestly, if Zelensky really cared, he should be calling for some kind of negotiation towards for a ceasefire or something at this point, because really, I can't imagine any more of this happening without there being a lot more issues with people here. And I think especially in Europe that it would be almost detrimental to the our administration, if this keeps going.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't taken care of them yet at this point. We're more than willing to just go, oh, I don't have that on that board. Let's do this then. How about this?
Bye, Felicia.
There we go. I got it.
There you go.
I have the button's just not linked. But anyway, that's all I had to say on the matter.
Right.
So
I feel like this might be a very quick stream, which is fine for me because
yeah, well, we got Indy's article to go through, so
Oh, what are you saying? It's long?
It's not that bad, actually. But you got this coming up. So
I got this coming out. Speaking of the Biden administration and all this fake shit, of like he's doing well.
Yeah.
Like he's exceeded my expectations. That's the talking point that we're hearing. Well, check this out. So, where's that from?
Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, that's new.
That's from Hollywood Squares. You fool.
Haven't read them in a minute. Common Dreams. You all know that's generally my go-to. Jake Johnson reports rolling Medicaid purge called largest concentration of health insurance loss in U.S. history. Let that sink in, sir. Like, largest concentration of health insurance loss. One activist warned that this is going to become the healthcare legacy of the Biden presidency if his administration doesn't act, which we know he won't. But this won't be talked about that much, which is why we're going to do it right here. And anyone who can tell you, Biden is doing a great job or all this kind of bullshit, you can send them this clip and kind of prove otherwise. But anyway, Jake Johnson writes, states across the U.S. has stripped nearly 6 million people of Medicaid coverage just the past several months, creating what one healthcare activist and researcher described as the largest concentration of health insurance loss in American history. This is happening in red states like Texas, Utah, or Idaho, where we expect this brutal Medicare retrenchment. Beatrice Adler-Bolton, co-author of Health Communism and co-host of the popular Death Panel podcast, said in a statement on Friday. But there are huge amounts of procedural disenrollments happening in California. It's happening in Rhode Island and California and New Mexico, noted Adler-Bolton. This is a year-long process, and it's just getting started. It's moving slowly, and it's more dangerous this way. The process is rolling, so the data is slow. We're not going to have a full picture of how to compare states against each other for months and months. So yeah, it sounds like we're not going to get the full scope of this until God knows how long. I would argue, assuming Biden is not the president come 2024, but watch what's going to happen if we get Trump back in. This will stay, and people will kind of throw this at Trump. Oh, you're the cause of this.
Yes.
Like, watch what that's like.
Obama put a ton of tanks on Russian borders and, expected Trump to do something about it,
Right.
So, same difference.
The latest data compiled by KFF, which includes publicly reported figures from 48 states and Washington, D.C., shows that at least 5.7 million people have lost Medicaid coverage since April. And just to give context, that's when the pandemic ended officially. When states began eligibility checks and disenrollments that were paused during the coronavirus pandemic.
Right, so coronavirus is over. And give us our motherfucking money.
Right.
Okay.
A bipartisan deal reached by Congress and approved by President Joe Biden late last year lifted the pandemic-era continuous coverage requirements that prevented states from kicking people off Medicaid during the public health emergency. The policy led to record Medicare enrollment, and its termination could cause upwards of 15 million people, including millions of children, to lose coverage under the program.
Nice.
So, fuck them kids, I guess.
Yep. 15 million people with an M. That's a lot of people. That's 1.5 billion, right? We're gonna do math. I like how they rounded it down to millions, though. So, yeah.
According to KFF, 73% of the people disenrolled from Medicare so far have lost coverage for procedural reasons, such as failure to return paperwork on time or jump through other, often confusing, bureaucratic hoops, not because they were deemed ineligible due to their income or other factors. High procedural disenrollment rates are concerning because many people who are disenrolled from these paperwork reasons may still be eligible for Medicare coverage, KFF explained earlier this week. Some states, such as Maine, have temporarily paused procedural terminations for some enrollees, while the states address problems in the renewal process that lead to increased procedural disenrollments. Many of these individuals did not receive any notice of denial, leaving them unaware of their coverage termination. Jesus Christ.
So, yeah. Great.
Texas has removed Texas has removed more people from Medicaid than any other state, disenrolling around 617,000 in just a few months. Late last month, the state's entire Democratic congressional delegation implored the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to intervene and ensure that Texas Republican-dominated government complies with federal rules to prevent the catastrophic loss of coverage. The Democratic lawmakers, led by Representatives Loyal Doggett and Greg Caesar, cited a July whistleblower letter that issued dire warnings about Texas's Medicaid purge. The whistleblowers, who identified themselves as employers of the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, wrote that roughly 2 weeks after the mass disenrollments began, we started receiving numerous emails from agency leadership indicating that thousands of individuals had been erroneously denied coverage. As a result of the initial process we ran in April, we are informed that approximately 80,000 individuals lost coverage erroneously, including several thousand pregnant women who required critical services during their pregnancies or essential post-pregnancy care coverage, the whistleblowers wrote. Additionally, we received subsequent emails from agency leadership indicating that several thousand elderly individuals were slated to lose medical coverage, which previously paid a portion of their Medicare Part B expenses.
Yep.
Many of these individuals did not receive any notice of denial, they added, leaving them unaware of their coverage termination until their social benefits were reduced to cover the premium payments. Shortly after the whistleblower alleged allegations emerged, CMS sent letters to all 50 states noting that it had learned of additional systems and operational issues affecting multiple states, which may be resulting in eligible individuals being improperly disenrolled. One problem identified by CMS could be having a disproportionate impact on kids, the agency said in a statement.
Oh, it definitely will.
CMS believes that eligibility systems in a number of states are programmed incorrectly and are conducting automatic renewals at the family level and not the individual level, even though individuals in a family may have different eligibility requirements to qualify for Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, the agency said. For example, children often have higher eligibility thresholds than their parents, making them more likely to be eligible for Medicaid or CHIP coverage even if their parents no longer qualify. Sounds like, what was it? The child tax credit, basically. Yeah, it's great that children get that tax credit, but if the parents are poor,
yeah, good luck.
What much of a difference is it going to make for the kids, even though they get a little bit? So, take care of the family, you take care of the kids. But anyway, speaking on the condition of anonymity, one Biden administration told the Washington Post that the number of children affected by the programming issue is likely in the millions. CMS has also warned that long call center times in at least 16 states could be causing people to give up on trying to renew their coverage. While Republican-led such as Texas and Florida have moved aggressively to gut their Medicaid rules, drawing outrage and lawsuits from residents, California, New York, and other blue states have also collectively removed hundreds of thousands of people from the program, often for procedural reasons, indicating a nationwide crisis. Adela Bolton warned Friday that this is going to become the healthcare legacy of the Biden presidency if his administration doesn't act quickly. When we look at the Affordable Care Act enrollment expansion, 13 million people added in 2014. We're going to see a contradiction of a similar amount, if not 10 million more, in the course of a calendar year, said Adler Bolton. CMS has the authority to halt procedural determinations today. We're only a few months into this, and 74% are procedural determinations. CMS should be saying pause. It's their responsibility to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
thanks, Biden.
Yep.
Come on, man. Give me a little break here.
Well, his legacy is going to look real great, and that also ties to Obama's legacy.
Well, is it though? Because people are not talking about this.
Because they don't know. They have no idea.
Right. I think JB has talked about this. I think Savvy has talked about this story maybe a few weeks ago. But yeah, like this is a huge deal, especially given the fact that this involves children, and which is obviously given my job very close to my heart. Can you pull up that?
Yes.
That you just did.
Yep.
Sorry. So Google said my daughter basically lost her insurance as soon as COVID-19 was over. Medicaid, bunch of BS. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep.
But
I also saw, I think it was, if I scroll up a little further, where's it at? I'm looking. It was someone saying that their mom wasn't getting their PT for the same reason that she actually needs. So, bad bread and circuses. Looks like more people going without insulin and climbing healthcare debt. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I said this months ago. Like, once the pandemic was over, if you still had medical debt, I think they will kind of chill on that for the lot. Trust me, I know because I went through the same shit during the pandemic. They will start collecting on them, and I'm pretty sure they started to, and that's putting people in the bind. So. Yeah, and again, this is the shit that is not reported about at all, but Joe Biden is doing a good job. So I will say this though, one positive that I'm thinking about in terms of this, this is the beauty of me working in local politics, because a lot of the stuff that I talk about here, I think just naturally when it falls through, I can kind of use that as activism locally in DC. You know this, but I went to my organizational meeting for the group that I'm part of last night. There's actually, and I'm not sure if I should even say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. For what I understand, there is potentially a bill that is being created in DC to reinstate the child tax credit locally here. So right now we're going to do research in terms of what that will look like if that were to happen. Definitely one of the things that I'm thinking about after reading this article, the one thing that I kind of mentioned last night Number one, make it universal. Like, even if it's for a rich person, you may want to, and this is something that we have to kind of look at, you might want to give it on a sliding scale depending on income, but make it available to everybody, is essentially what I'm thinking about. But then the other thing is, again, with this article, I'm just thinking about kids, because, like, honestly, like, with the child tax credit, like, for many people, and I'm going to be doing the data, like, through the fall, just to kind of see if families had a child credit, what would they do with that money? And one thing I said was childcare. But I'm fairly certain now, thinking about this, maybe for some families, healthcare as well. So that's definitely something that I am thinking about. And by the way, fam, like, I'll probably will talk more about this as I pull everything together when I start collecting this data next month. I'll probably will ask you guys too. Maybe we can make that a segment. Like, as far as if you are a parent and you had X number of money for a child's credit every month, what would you spend that on? It's essentially what I'm thinking about right now. But yeah, it just shows, like, a lot of this, typically, not surprisingly, is bureaucracy, just in terms of paperwork is hard, people don't give anything on time, everything is backed up, that people lose their coverage.
As someone with
So
severe ADHD,
it just shows what kind of shitty system we have.
Any impedance to
in terms
getting
of
the thing done,
trying to help people, and I think we're frozen again.
Me, you, I hear you. It might be frozen on your. Oh, maybe not.
I think we're frozen again.
But seems okay on my end. So anyway,
I cannot hear you, Reef.
Okay, I hear you. If that makes you feel better.
I cannot hear you, Reef. There we go.
Yeah, I think that's on your end. It's fine on ours, so hopefully.
Okay, I have to look at.
But
Okay,
I was gonna say, as a person with severe ADHD, any impedance to, like, getting medical stuff done, you just won't do. Right? So any extra paperwork, like, is a massive problem. So, like, I don't know. It's frustrating, to say the least, that this kind of stuff, like, the minute you okay, I got to call, get prescriptions put in, and, oh, well, your insurance isn't quite perfect. Well, let me call. Let's see. Oh, well, you missed the deadline to do this, and you didn't receive any information. Like, so, yeah.
Well, not even that, but like insurance here is shit, because, like, just as an aside, like, when I was in Boston, I had one type of insurance. I have hay fever. I have seasonal allergies. So I would go to get Flonase through an subscription. Like, so with my insurance, at least with that insurance, I paid at the time was like $5 or something like that. Fine.
Yeah.
Moved to DC, switched to another health insurance company, went to a pharmacy to get the same prescription. Again, this is seasonal allergies, and they're like, no, it's not covered. So now I have to pay full price to get the same medicine that initially I was paying with my insurance formerly $5 for. So it just makes no damn sense how insurance works in this country at all. So, but yeah, I think some people are mentioning having that data possibly as a story. I think about it. I'll definitely might ask you guys for help with it as soon as I kind of tailor it with my group to figure out how we're going to do it. But I think it might be I think actually that might be a good exercise for people in terms of direct action locally. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll think about it and see how I can make that into maybe an ongoing segment here. So yeah, but thanks
Well-
guys, appreciate that. And yeah, those of you who are struggling, sorry, but yeah, like
Expect more struggle, I guess.
right.
Speaking of struggle, Substack is doing some shenanigans. That our favorite co-founder of INN, Indy Left, has some stuff to say about. He wrote this Substack on Substack to talk about Substack. You know, he says, not you too, Substack.
To bitch on Substack.
Stay out of promoting content. Be a platform, whatever a platform is. Not the first to say it, but platforms should not pick winners among its users, but if so, help the people who need a boost the most. Right? And he wrote this on September 11th, not too long ago. He writes, "Here we go again. I have been incredibly hopeful about the potential and possibilities of Substack, a platform and community I've come to enjoy being a part of and encouraged many others to participate in, but I have some serious concerns about it at the moment and am worried that I am setting myself up to be heartbroken. Long ago, before the platform evolved with chat, notes, and more, 3 large independent publishers, in the form of Glenn Greenwald, David Sirota, and Kevin Gostola, set up here and then left for different reasons, but it started me wondering why. I was a little sad and disagreed with their decision to bail. 2 went to Ghost, the 3rd to Locals. I even tried to convince one to give Substack another chance. Based on all the new functionality, they chose to stay where they are for now." So, Substack is leaning into corporate media personalities. I don't know if you've heard this, Collin, but this recent post to Notes by Hamish McKenzie, Substack COO and co-founder, showcased a lot of the big names they've attracted to create Substacks of their own, gaining notoriety for the platform. I love that the founders and executives are engaged in publishing and accessible. I thought they were listening too, but now I'm not so sure. So here's Hamish, right? As other platforms move away from politics or pour fuel on bad dumpster fires, we are leaning in. We want to make 2024 the Substack election. We're making big moves to do that, starting with the hire of Catherine Valentine, a star comms professional from the Washington Post and CNN. That's who they are putting in charge of the Substack election.
Yay.
Yay! Corporate. Yay! So, Indy writes, "It hurts to see Substack give a boost to the creators who need it the least, celebrating their presence here and using them for their fame, which was generated using corporate-sponsored TV, radio, and newspapers, which are partially responsible for the polarized discourse throughout much of the political world, and corporate media also was the driver behind many of the smaller independent publishers moved to Substack in the first place." Here's Indy replying to Indy. Basically, the only newsletters featured are famous names from corporate media. This is deeply disappointing. All of these names featured, save for a couple, have been part of the problem of spreading propaganda on behalf of the corporate state and are always USA awesome by default.
Desert Mantis in the chat asks, are these the same people that call Taibbi a blogger when referring to his
Substack
Yes.
writing? I think probably partially.
Yes.
They at least agreed
Yes.
with Rachel Maddow in that case.
Yes.
So now they've hired someone from the Washington Post and CNN, the elite of corporate media, to lead their politics initiatives. Do you think that person will be amplifying independent creators that either didn't emerge directly from corporate media or that don't have massive audiences already here? Do you think they'll be promoting anti-duopoly messaging or third parties' independence much, if at all? My guess is likely not. So here's this article he's quoting. "As we spread the word that Substack is playing an increasingly important role in the political world, we're thrilled to announce that we have hired Catherine Valentine, a communications professional from the Washington Post, to lead our politics initiatives. At the Post, and before that, CNN, Catherine earned a reputation as a sharp thinker with brilliant instincts. At Substack, she will work with politicians, candidates, analysts, and policy experts across the political spectrum to help make Substack the central place for thoughtful, rigorous conversations. So, also note in that paragraph who Hamish mentions politicians, candidates, analysts, and policy experts. But what did he glaringly omit? Other people publishing on Substack, regular people with observations outside the DC bubble. This feels very insular. Indy feels like a canary in the coal mine. In some ways, there are not many of us shouting loudly about the preferential treatment that people with famous names get. Thanks to Rich Slutsky, you might know him as Crying Grim, Robert Ubuschek, a little hooked on phonics on that name. I hope that's well enough. Sorry if I butchered. And Mike Hampton and others who have also expressed concerns about this on Notes. Given that the on Substack post has close to 1,000 comments at the moment, others clearly have opinions about this too. George on Substack writes, at Substack, she will work with politicians, candidates, and analysts, and policy experts across the political spectrum to make Substack the central place for thoughtful, rigorous conversations. You hired an alum of CNN and the Washington Post to do this? Why? Will his platform just turn into another outlet for propaganda? Maybe. Indy asks, was this a foregone conclusion? This year, Substack has been spotlighting some of the bigger names on the platform. Brilliant Substack writer and Notes pugilist Rich Slutsky from Counterspin, Lies, Damn Lies, and Spin published 2 articles recently decrying why this is disappointing, but sadly not entirely unpredictable. It also does not seem to bode well for small independent creators looking to build an ecosystem of content and distribute it from one place here at Substack. So here's his Rich Slutsky's thing here. On Substack, this is not a post I feel I will enjoy writing. Normally I have some niche topic that's very fascinating to write about from a consumer patient advocacy angle, and I am happy to make a strong, unequivocal argument for or against whatever the topic is. Today is not one of those times. Today is more just me sounding the warning horn yet again. Indy writes, we are both hopeful and want Substack to not work against us, but the warning signs are there. Spinning wheel, the printing press was a marvelous invention, wasn't it? Clean, properly spaced text on demand, easily replicable, with minimal tooling and knowledge required. All you realistically had to do was the typesetting, cranking, and handing out of dictum. It was one of the few technological inventions to, and links to the article down in the description below where you can find the links to these articles. But yeah, I think he's equivocating Substack to the printing press, right? And how you probably shouldn't, lock things out like that. Notice that I won't refer to the word writers, which Substack uses to describe the people who make content here. Calling all creators writers is very limiting and a little insulting to the video producers, podcasters, photographers, and musicians, among others, trying to make Substack their content home and distribution hub every day and week. This is a little nitpicky, sure, but it makes a statement to everyone who doesn't write regularly nonetheless. Indy says, man, what a gut punch. I don't want to have to look for another home, but if this trend continues, I will have to look elsewhere for a platform not helping further contribute to the gulf between the popular corporate media personalities and the obscure among its creators trying to build from scratch. So, anything to say so far, Care Bear?
I mean, I think we talk about this ad nauseum, but this is why we need to have our own shit.
Yep.
Like in media. I've actually started having conversations about that with Indy as to what that could look like for INN.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Crab said it. Every company goes down the shit-lip pipeline. Eventually, it's the most profitable. Yeah, money.
Yep.
So
profit ruins everything.
We've seen it on YouTube. We've seen it on Twitter, and now we're seeing it on Substack. And it's like, that's one of the few. Now, I not shit on it, but like we make fun of Indy for basically like with his love affair for it. But at the same time, it makes sense given that it gives like true independent voices an outlet where mainstream media will not play or like show any of their content at all. Desert Mantis in the chat also said, I read Caitlin Johnstone, Erin Brockovich, John Mersheimer, Aramate, Berchenheimer, Aramate, Deb Armstrong, Danny Hyphon, Violin, Scott Ritter, Einan, among others on Substack. Yeah, so like even us, you know, we plan to do more of that stuff. You know, like we're able to write and not be censored. And, you know, shout out to Brett Wilkins, who we had on, who is a writer for Common Dreams. He mentioned this, like there's certain articles that will be edited, you know, because it may not be mainstream friendly.
Right.
He's even said that. And Common Dreams is considered more independent, quote unquote. So it's a losing battle. And I think really the biggest problem is, I think, in independent media is how to profit financially without essentially going in the mainstream camp where essentially they just kind of take over and it becomes shit livery. I don't know what that would look like. That's something.
There's a thing in Japan, and I think in some, it's a Eastern philosophy of some degree when it comes to business, but that you do one thing really well, right? Versus trying to do 1,000 things. I think Substack, focusing on that writing platform, that article platform, you know, I think is the best thing they can do. I think branching out into things like notes and whatever, while it does give a social platform on this platform, I think it's hard to compete with other social platforms that already exist, right? You know, I think that takes away from what else you're doing. And if what else you're doing is going to be to push more establishment voices anyway, you know, it's not looking good in that regard. And Indy wonders what options we have left. So I think he said, you know, there was Ghost and Locals, which there's pros and cons to both of those, but he mentions WordPress here. Compare what Substack is doing with the self-hosted version of WordPress, which literally provides a framework to create whatever you want without any engagement, support, or boosting from the creator of the WordPress publishing platform. Automatic, right? So I have been avoiding moving to WordPress because it is a beast to maintain, the most up-to-date version, find the right plugins, keep them up to date, and their site builders are clunky compared to the interface here. He replies to Rich, not bailing yet, but this is definitely not helpful to the people who start from nothing without a corporate media resume and following. Hope Hamish is paying attention. I am sure I speak for many who won't say anything. They'll just disappear or disengage, begrudgingly making preparations to start to move back toward WordPress. So, however, Substack is going to go this route of being a champion for the corporate media personalities that are part of the reason why we are where we are politically in this country. I'll have to start looking elsewhere, as content that questions the accuracy of the security state will rarely, if ever, be supported. Hamish even noted recently, when a prominent WordPress site moved to Substack, they know who their competition is, right? So Hamish says here, the New Statesman has abandoned its old WordPress-based newsletter platform and became the first major publisher to distribute its newsletters entirely through Substack. Well, that's very smart of them. Well done, at Harry Lambert, right? So, appreciating that. Hamish is. So, Indy replies, please, Hamish McKinsey, please stop me from going to WordPress. Convince me you're not going to be promoting much better funded competitors, further disadvantaging independent content. Don't promote the corporate media personalities who used to scoff at Substack. They don't appreciate this platform and will move on the minute it is no longer the hot thing. It makes much more sense to showcase the smaller independent newsletters that made Substack what it is today. SO to Miles Baker and Chris Best, maybe they have something to say here. Shout out. What are your thoughts about a platform amplifying its largest creators who came from corporate media? Sound off in the comments below. You can do that in the comments here as well. or, you know, go to the link in the description and comment there. So, but yeah. So anything you got to add?
Not really. I think I said what I needed to say, but yeah, I don't know. It's censorship, in a matter of speaking. Shout out to Indy for writing.
Yeah,
Substack.
that he with his fat thumbs can't type.
But yeah, I think it's becoming a losing battle, and yeah, I mean, this is kind of the result of just being an independent media. It's not independent anymore because, as we know, anything you're doing the right thing, well, speaking in truth, is going to be censored or going to be taken down. So they can't have that. But then the most important thing is money. Like, people are not going to pay. People are going to pay for a narrative that they want to promote. They're not going to necessarily pay for a narrative that challenges people and empowers people to do something in terms of especially fighting back against this censorship, which I think is very ironic compared to what, if you go into journalism, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So,
well, and this to me is the problem with just growth in general, right? You know, if your constant focus is to grow your numbers, grow your, you know, viewership, in this case, your click rate for a Substack, you know, it hurts you as far as how good your platform is, you know?
Right.
So,
and we've seen this here. It's just like a lot of people that we know in the space with the stories that they're well, not right, but the stories that I can't even call it stories, not stories. It's not stories that they cover. It's just beefs and personality fights and trending topics that they report on because that's what's going to drive the algorithm. That's what YouTube favors. And
growth for
I'm
the
not going to
sake
say
of growth
names.
is,
Right.
you know, if you're just going to collect resources, like,
I'm not going to say names, but you know, we had people say that we do this for a hobby. Yes. Yes. Because we actually want to talk about real shit, and we actually do want to talk about stuff that is actually empowering to people and kind of shows, you know, like, look at the stories tonight. Like, we want to talk about real issues. Like, and our thumbnails, even if you look at them, generally kind of reflect that. So, but yeah, that's not popular, and that's fine for us. Well, fine to a point. We obviously want to grow, but we want to have quality work that we're able to produce as well. But yeah, I think the question is where we're going to do that, because even with YouTube, one thing about YouTube is that it's international, so that I know, like, generally, if people are watching me here, people are watching us in Europe, people are watching us in Africa, whatever. It's global. So, like, we have access as long as people know about us. Like, with the other platforms like Rockfin or Rumble, like, depending, they're not as well known, especially like in the global South yet. So you're gonna lose a ton of your audience if you primarily stream on those channels, unless if you're really popular here, versus doing it on YouTube, where you get, but again, even with YouTube, you can only talk about certain things unless you get strikes, you know, or they can just straight up nuke your channel just because. And I've seen that happen to people before, like, no strikes or nothing. They just, nope, you're done. So no rhyme or reason.
Well, it's also,
but yeah, I think
people constantly chasing just headlines, which, like, I don't know about you, but I kind of pride ourselves on reading the whole article here, you know?
Well, looks like we got ourselves a reader.
We do have some readers here. In fact, thank you, Bill Hicks. But Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing wrong about that. I know people who, I know channels that just read Reddit stories, and those are really popular.
Yep.
You know, obviously there's usually drama based, but people are really willing to hear the drama. So like, I mean,
what?
That's also new. No, I gave that to you. So
yes,
I think. But
what?
But yeah, so ongoing problem. I think that you guys know about it, but yeah, we're getting less and less ways to spread truth and do the content that we want because censorship.
Yeah.
Again, thanks, Biden.
Oh, what a crazy world we live in. We're in a more crazy weeks ahead, so strap in. Speaking of the week ahead, you know, you're right here. Look at that. That's where we are right there. Well, you know, thanks to Crab for this new thing. Speaking of Crab, tomorrow Bread and Circuses in chat now, I think. I don't know if Crab's also there. I think he usually is.
Crab's here now.
So that'll be good. Little Bread and Circuses going on, and then after that, you got oh bless me, you got Angel in the Afternoon. That's on Friday. What? Well, Anita. I mean, don't worry about it.
For me?
Maybe. You know, don't worry for the next one. We got Saturdays. We're gonna figure out what's going on there. We might do something. We'll figure it out. So keep an eye on Twitter for that. But over here, Indy's airing his Nobody Wants to Work Anymore with Snow Himbo on Sundays right now, since How Did We Miss That has taken a break for a month or so. Already 1 week down, so you know we'll be back before you know it. And then Monday after that, you got Politically Homeless. You know,
awesome.
So, but anyway, yeah. So we got a week, and if you didn't do what?
What did you put those in? When did you put those in?
Like over a couple weeks ago. I just don't think I haven't used them yet. But then after that, we got, you know,
it's an American tradition.
Right there on Tuesday. I don't think he's on. Yesterday. We had one of those.
Yesterday. Yesterday. So he's off.
It's a great American tradition.
So check that out. You know, if you missed that, he apparently unveiled some new pieces. So check out Jesse Jet's stuff there with Indy manning the board on that. But then you got us Wednesday again. So, you know, you'll see our lovely faces. But
and if you have stories that you want us to report on, please send them to us.
Yep.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And then, like, you know, we don't want to. Sometimes it's hard. Just
sometimes it's slow weeks.
It's slow, and this isn't necessarily a slow week, but we just didn't want to. We just want to avoid what everyone is talking about. So it's kind of hard to kind of pull stuff away from all of that.
Stuff you shouldn't avoid, though. Stuff at the indienews.shop. Go get you some merch. Get you that bitch shirt. Get you that nice old bitch shirt. It'll be nice, you know. Get you this Joe Biden blew up the Nord Stream little mug or an INN mug. Just, you know, you gotta rock the bucket hat and flippies. Come on, bucket hat and flippies with the white shirt, the white hoodie. Come on, it's a look.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
I mean, it's a look, but summer is over, so
winter's coming.
Unless you live,
winter's coming. You know, get the hoodie.
Yeah, but like
the
hoodie.
Little crop top hoodie, show off your belly button ring, you know, do it up.
We should actually show that, given that it's gonna get cold.
Yeah.
So just show them peace.
But yeah,
Whatever.
anyway, that's our show, fam. Hope you appreciated it.
Thank you.
Check out all the stuff. Like, subscribe, find all the links. nittynews.network. You know, shout out to our members. They're going across the screen now. Look at them. Look at those friends. Nicole Vance. Who's next? Black Freud. You know, you've seen them all night. They're good peoples. Gamer for Life. He's here. You know, so you know, do it up. Look, there's Spooky. Spooky's there.
You called me Schmoopy.
They got Spookies. But anyway, we appreciate you. We always like having a little extra cash in our pocket. So appreciate that. But anyway, I think that's it. Anything you got?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Like I'm waiting for the iron and electric. Ooh, mittens.
Electric mittens, sure.
I would actually would rock that, even though DC doesn't get that cold, but cold enough where I would. So
Yeah.
that actually might be an idea. Mittens or gloves or something.
Yep.
But,
so appreciate
anyway.
that. But yeah, like, subscribe, do all the things. Appreciate you guys. As always, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.